Welcome to another Unitrend Certified Administrator course. Today we're going to be talking about performing data copy access, which is a subset of copy data management for Hyper-V and image level backups. To do this, there will be some pre-work that needs to be completed on the Hyper-V host to prepare it for these tests. You'll need to come to the Virtual Switch Manager and create a private virtual switch, typically called Sandbox. That way the machines can be booted into this environment and talk to each other without talking to the production network. We'll then need to go to the Protect menu under Data Copy Access, and we'll need to choose Hyper-V type backups. From there, you can see that I can choose from all these different types here, be it image or Hyper-V. I could bring up my SQL server, my web server, and my file server from regardless of the backup type. And when they come up, we will define a lab profile that defines where the instant recovery is going to occur to. So we're going to perform a typical instant recovery where we stand that up on a network share and then share it out to our Hyper-V host. The Hyper-V host is going to see us as if we're a NAS with a new VM and allow the machine to be booted directly from our storage using the CPU and memory of your virtual host. Then, when we're doing this, we will stand the machine up in the Sandbox virtual switch when we're running tests. That will allow us to boot the machine up, and then we can log in through Hyper-V integration services to ask the machine to run service level checks. In order to accommodate this, though, we will need to install an agent on guest VMs within the Hyper-V host. You'll need to install this DCA Hyper-V agent package, again, just to the guest VMs, not to the Hyper-V host itself. It's a series of PowerShell scripts like checkservice.ps1, so I can call that script inside of the machine through Hyper-V integration services and get information about what's happening inside. So again, you'll see it's booting up on Hyper-V host 1. We're going to use the H drive here for our storage. And under a live mode, it would put it on this virtual switch, the real switch, and begin to migrate it to this volume. But when we're doing testing, it's going to live in the Sandbox switch and not copy anything to this storage. It only is used for the page file for the virtual machine. If you have multiple network adapters on the appliance, you would choose that. Then from here, we would choose our RPO and RTO goals. RPO being how old the data can be. In this case, if I'm backing up once a day, every day, it's no longer than 24 hours old. And if I want to see how long these take to boot and make sure they don't take longer than an hour, I would set my RTO goal here. So from there, we can continue on and we can set the suffix that it adds to the end of the machine. Then from there, I can choose the options for how often I want this to be tested. So I can have this tested every single day. And assuming all my backups finish at 3 a.m., if I run this test at 5, I would be testing all the previous day's backups. On the next page there, I can then define the options for those tests. So we can see here, for example, if my file server needs to come up first before my SQL server, I would then tell it to log in with the service account. Then we can log into the machine through Hyper-V integration services and ask it to run tests. I can do my own custom scripting, and I can even inject after the fact malware scans through ClamAV. But most people are doing things like checking for SQL, pinging hosts, checking for Windows services, checking websites for words on the page, or for things like Active Directory. And usually, if you're going to be using a domain service account, you need to make sure you're bringing up a domain controller first. So, if I wanted to look for something generic on this server, I can look for the server service. For my web server here, I would want to probably have this come up after SQL's come up. So this would actually be the third machine to boot, again logging in with the service account, because I want to check and see if IIS is running. But in order for IIS to work correctly, I have to have SQL up because the database is necessary for my web application. So this would be the second server to boot. And again, the service account. Now, if I know that I have certain applications that take a little bit longer to start on a system, I can always add a delay here which means it'll wait a certain amount of minutes after HyperV integration services becomes up before it tries to run any tests on the machine. So again, we come back to tests, go to add, and then from here, if I wanted to look for a SQL instance, MS SQL Server is the default in most situations. So from the Jobs tab here under Job Manager, I can choose my data copy access job and hit Run Test. That would stand the machines up under an instant recovery, check the services, then tear everything back down and give us a report of how long it all took. We'll show you a recent completed report from another data copy access job. You'll see in this instance, we started a domain controller, a SQL server, and an application server. We reconfigured the machines to put them on the sandbox network, then powered them on in the correct order, validating the services as we moved through. Once we were done, we powered off the machines and removed everything, updating our compliance report, where if I come back under my reporting, under compliance report, I can see that I have a job that is yet to be tested and the job that has been tested recently. I can see in this example that the backups themselves are 12 hours old, and this is how long they took to be booted and have their services verified the last time that they were tested. We do have other features within here, like the Instant Lab and Failover feature. Instant Lab would allow me to bring up all of these machines into the sandbox network and then leave them in the sandbox network until I choose to commit or discard the lab. This can be really useful because if somebody ever needs a development environment, I can quickly spin up all the necessary servers for that application into a sandbox and let them make any changes they'd like. Then when they're done with it, I can tell it to commit, move the storage, or discard, just delete the VMs. And if I have a particular server that maybe somebody installed an update on and I need to see if that broke something, I can always roll back just that one server to a previous update. This is also super useful if there's ever a ransomware attack, as you can always isolate these machines, then attach antivirus utilities into the isolated copies and verify that they're clean before they get moved back into production, something that we found that's actually required by most cyber insurance policies. But of course, if things truly did hit the fan, we could do a failover. This would bring all of the machines up from whatever point in time you choose, bringing them on the real network immediately, or the recovery network, and immediately starting to copy them over to the storage that we had chosen. That's it for today. If you have further questions on data copy access, please check our guides online or check out the guides on Kaseya University.